Hey guys, Angie here to break down UFC 300. This is an absolutely stacked event. I'm going to do something different today. I'm going to break down each of the fights, but I'm going to make them quick. So that should be fun. This event, I feel like I should be more excited, but it feels like, you know, when you go to a fancy dinner and there's a 3-course meal, it kind of feels like each of those, like the entree and all the different dishes are all really rich and really, like maybe it's all like mud cake or something, like having the same dish over and over, like dessert. It's all dessert, but there's lots of big names on this card and it's exciting. But for me personally, I really love to see the up and comers, people get their lucky shot at, you know, last minute notice, contender series fighters making their debut and all that. I really love to see that diversity, but I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that at the moment, my appetite for this event is meh. How am I gonna eat all that mud cake? Here we go. Let's get into it. And yes, also I do have more than one jacket, so I might start mixing it up a little. So first fight of the early prelims, we've got DEIVESON, the ex-flyweight champ, versus CODY GARBRANDT, the ex-bantamweight champ. CODY GARBRANDT, he had a few KO losses. He was looking a bit chinny, but he's rebuilt himself. He got a couple of wins together, and he looked like he had changed his style, so he was less susceptible to getting hit. DEIVESON, he just made his bantamweight debut, and he looked really great against Rob Font. Me personally, I think that Rob Font was a tougher matchup for DEIVESON, and I think CODY GARBRANDT's going to be easy picking for him. So I'm expecting DEIVESON to get a knockout or a submission, maybe in round number 1. Second fight of the early prelims, we've got Bobby Green versus Jim Miller. This is a really interesting fight, actually, because both guys are veterans. Jim Miller's had a lot of success recently. He's looking really great for someone who's, I think he's 40. Well, actually, I don't know, but he's been around a long time. He's had the most fights in the UFC. Bobby Green, though, is a dangerous striker. I think he was a last-minute replacement for Dan Hooker against Jalen Turner, and Jalen Turner KO'd him very easily because Bobby had his hands down and he was fooling around the way Bobby Green does. But having said that, I think Bobby Green gets the better of most guys. I think he's going to be a bit too much for Jim Miller. Bobby Green is dangerous, so the odds are pretty correct of this one. I've got Bobby Green by a stoppage as well in this fight. Let's say round number 2. God, this seems too quick. Jessica Andrade versus Marina Rodriguez. We haven't seen Marina in a while. She had a TKO over Michelle Waterson. It feels like that was maybe last year. Before that, she lost 2 in a row. And before that, she was looking like she was going to fight for the strawweight title. But she's 36 now, so she's a bit older. She's up against Andrade, who is a killer when she prepares herself properly with the Riot camp. Andrade is coming off a TKO off Mackenzie Dern, but this fight's going to be a bit more dangerous, obviously, with the striking. I'm still favouring Andrade just because I haven't seen Marina Rodriguez for a while, and her last few fights don't really seem to... I mean, Andrade has got 2 losses too, but Andrade, I feel like, wasn't preparing correctly. So if Andrade, the fully prepped Andrade, turns up, I think she's definitely going to be very dangerous. Not saying that Marina can't get her out of there, but I'm going with Andrade here. Maybe by a finish in round 3. It could actually go to decision as well. But yeah, with Marina, I don't really have a lot to work with there. I haven't seen enough of her recently. Okay, last fight of the early prelims, is it? Jalen Turner and Renato Moicano. Jalen Turner's massively favoured in this fight. I think the odds are a little bit out of whack for this one. I think they should be more even. Maybe still slightly favouring Jalen, but Moicano, he's a savage. He's shown to be very solid and dangerous as well. Maybe the length of Jalen Turner might give him a bit of trouble if he wants to grapple. And Jalen Turner is very precise. Jalen Turner looked really good in his last fight against Bobby Green, which I just kind of mentioned earlier. But I think it depends on how Jalen turns up for the fight. Is he going to be really tough and learned his lesson from the Dan Hooker fight? Because in the Dan Hooker fight, Dan beat him with his will. And if Jalen's learned something from that fight, maybe he can withstand Moicano. If he hasn't, then I don't think he will. I'm kind of thinking this is a good fight for Moicano, just because he's crazy and he's well-rounded from memory. I think he can make this a dogfight and win a decision. So I'm going with Renato Moicano by decision. I love Jalen though. So the prelims, we've got SODIQ YUSUFF versus Diego Lopes. God. I'm all tangled up. So I'm going to base this fight again mainly off Diego Lopes. He has looked absolutely incredible and arguably could have won that unanimous decision against Movsar Evloev. That alone makes me want to go for Diego Lopes. SODIQ YUSUFF, I haven't seen as much of him. He's looked really good and solid, but he did lose his last fight against Edson Barboza, which I don't really remember how that fight went. But Diego Lopes has really stood out to me as a real legit title contender one day. So I'm going with Diego Lopes. I'm going to say by submission. But that's a little in vain of me because I don't really know too much about SODIQ YUSUFF. But these are quick picks. So forgive me. Wow. HOLM and KAYLA Harrison. So yeah, I've got a bit to say about this fight, even though I want to keep it quick. KAYLA Harrison, she is debuting in the UFC. Normally she fights at lightweight. So that's massive for a woman. There's no lightweight women in the UFC. And she also fights sometimes. I think she's even fought up at 160, which is super lightweight. She's a big girl. She is built like a man, actually. That's not to say, I don't mean that as a insult. Obviously, that's helped her a lot in her athletic career. It's a massive advantage to have. She's huge. So she normally fights at lightweight. I'm not even sure if she's even fought at featherweight before at 145, but she's going to be making her bantamweight debut later on in her career. And she's maybe 35 or she's in her 30s anyway. So she's taking a massive cut. So normally she cuts to 155. So now she's cutting 20 extra pounds. And that is absolutely drastic. She is going to be so depleted. She could even fuck up from that weight cut because she's never done it before. So that alone gives me a lot of concern. She's still a massive favorite, but that weight cut could really be the real fight for her. So I'm not very confident in picking her. Holly Holm might be a fun bet to have just because of that. Holly Holm has looked good recently. She's had a few close fights that she just lost by decision. Fight against Mario Bruno Silva was overturned because Bruno Silva was taking a substance. So that's a no contest now. Originally, Holly Holm got submitted. So yeah, I'm picking Holly Holm to win a decision because I think KAYLA Harrison is going to maybe look really good in the first round and then she's going to have no energy left. Weight cuts are really brutal. And even though she's one of the best in the world, another thing that I noticed was that she never got her win back from Larissa Pachenko, which is her only loss. And that makes me feel like that was a bit of she should have rematched Larissa, I think. So there's a bit of closure that's missing there. I feel like this could be really bad for KAYLA, even though I wish everyone the best in their debut. And I could be wrong, but I just feel like that weight cut's too drastic. And Holly Holm is, even though she's older, her skill set's gotten better and she's learned to manage things really well. So if she can overcome the first round, yeah, I've got Holly Holm by decision. Calvin Kattar and Aljamain Sterling. Oh no, this fight is the fight that I just can't figure out in my head. Calvin Kattar, we haven't seen him in a while because he injured his leg in the Arnold Allen fight. Before that, he lost a very close decision to Josh Emmett, and a lot of people actually thought he won that fight. Before that, he beat the hell out of Giga Jakaarte in a stunning performance, but he doesn't fight that often. He's a little bit older in his career. He's a sturdy guy though, and it looks like he hasn't been finished in his last few fights. I believe he has a really good takedown defense. He's an underdog against Aljamain Sterling, who's making his featherweight debut. Aljamain Sterling's coming off that loss to O'Malley, but in all fairness, Aljamain was on a very tight schedule. He was fighting too much, and you can't really judge that TKO loss too harshly, I believe, because he was pressured to take that fight on real short notice. He wasn't really ready, and he'd never really made such a quick turnaround before. I just don't know how they're going to match up because these fighters are both very different. Aljamain Sterling's more grappling, and Kattar is the boxing. Or Kattar, I should say, is the boxing. And I believe he has good takedown defense. So I think this could either go, Kattar can keep Aljamain Sterling at bay with his boxing, or Sterling can just grab his back and ride him out for the whole fight. I love Aljamain, but I'm going to pick Kattar in this one for the upset. I think he'll maybe start boxing him and catch him somehow. But this fight is really hard for me to predict, actually. Okay, the featured prelim. Yuri Prochazka versus Alexander Rakic. This fight is so big. Probably should have happened a long time ago, but I think their timelines didn't add up. Maybe they were meant to fight before and they never did. Prochazka coming off maybe an early stoppage against Alex Pereira, and he failed in getting that light heavyweight title back. Although I think that Pereira was going to win that anyway because it looked like he was really hurting Prochazka. But anyway, that doesn't matter now. Prochazka is dangerous and he's a killer and he's very unpredictable. Rakic is extremely technical. He's coming off a knee injury against Jan Blachowicz, so we haven't seen him in a while. Still, he hasn't had nearly as many fights as Prochazka. I think Prochazka is maybe towards the end of his career. It sounds crazy though, just because he's had a lot of fights. I think Rakic might be a little bit hungrier and composed, but this fight could go either way. It's light heavyweight. Anyone could knock, the other out. But I am favouring Rakic. He's probably got a little bit more hunger on his side just because, he's never been champion and he's still young in the sport in a way. So yeah, I'm picking Rakic to win maybe a decision. I say decision because he wins a lot of his fights by decision. He's a very technical, careful fighter, I think. The main card. Damn, I'm making these too long, aren't I? Bo Nickel is opening the main card against CODY Brundage. Bo Nickel, I kind of want to just shelve him, let him do the fights, the experience building he wants to do. It's not Bo Nickel's fault that he's getting all of this kid glove treatment, but it does piss off people that know better. Because it's a very boxing style way of building a fighter against people that don't really stand that much of a chance. But it's not exciting because we want to see an equal fight, a competitive fight. I want to see Bo Nickel fight his equal. And we're probably not going to get that for a very long time because they're protecting him. And it's not Bo Nickel's fault. CODY Brundage, though, he's had a little more success than some of Bo Nickel's other opponents, maybe. The DQ win over Jacob Malkoon, though, he won because Jacob got disqualified, so that doesn't really count. But he did get a really cool slam KO over Zachary Reese. There is a chance that he could upset the apple cart here, but it's probably going to be another Bo Nickel finish in round one. The UFC know what they're doing with the matchmaking. I'll say Bo Nickel by submission in round one. But I'd love to see an upset. For Bo Nickel, the best thing that could happen to him, maybe not right now, but in the future, is for him to lose. Because once you show you're vulnerable, you can be more relatable. I'm talking from an MMA point of view. He lost his last wrestling fights. Respect. But anyway, let's see how this fight goes. But I'm looking forward to seeing him fight someone that's on his level. Oh my God. Charles Oliveira versus Arman Tsarukyan. This fight is absolutely whack with the odds. I don't know why Oliveira is such an underdog. They both beat Beneil Dariush in the first round. I think that was their last opponent. Yep, they both beat Beneil Dariush as their last opponent. And still, Arman's a massive favourite. Look at the fighters Oliveira's fought. He just lost to Islam Makhachev, who's beaten Islam recently. He submitted Justin Gaethje. Arman Tsarukyan, he just beat Joaquim Silva. Damir Ismagulov. Those guys are not top 15 fighters. I know Arman is good though, and he did look really good against Beneil. But Beneil was just standing in front of him. He looked like he was in fairyland. He was fighting the way he wanted to fight, but he wasn't fighting the right way to fight Tsarukyan, who's really dangerous. So I think this fight should probably be more of a pick'em. I know Oliveira's had a lot of wear and tear now, but I'm picking Oliveira to win this. I reckon Oliveira's going to submit him or knock him out. Of course, I'm a little bit biased for Oliveira. Everyone loves Oliveira. Tsarukyan very well could be the future champ, but I'm picking Oliveira by submission. Maybe even in round one. I think this is the co-main event or the featured bout. I don't really know which one it is, but we've got Justin Gaethje and Max Holloway for the BMF title. All this while, I think this is a really good fight for Gaethje. He is going to absolutely destroy Max Holloway. That's my feeling. I would love to see a more competitive fight. I would love to see Max grow into a lightweight frame and give Gaethje a really competitive fight, but I just don't see that happening. I know that the fight against Dustin for the lightweight interim title was a little while ago, and maybe that wasn't a good time for Max to be fighting a lightweight, but now he's probably grown into his lightweight figure more. Although he's looked really good at featherweight too, I just don't think he is a natural lightweight. And the other thing is that Gaethje's really built up his muscle recently, so he's cutting more weight now. A little bit more weight, but he's got a lot more power. So yeah, I think for this fight, Gaethje is going to do a similar thing to what he did with Tony Ferguson. And I hate to say it, he could do that to Max. And I'm only saying that because Gaethje is an absolute killer. And he surprised me a lot. He didn't surprise me with knocking out Dustin because I knew he was dangerous. And I knew that probably wasn't a good rematch for Dustin to take at that time. I think this is a a late stoppage for GAETHJE, maybe in round 3. He's just too ferocious. You know, Max could catch GAETHJE though, because sometimes GAETHJE's chin doesn't look all that great. If Max is able to place a really good uppercut or something, or knee GAETHJE when he comes in, that could happen. But I think it's less likely. I think GAETHJE's just too strong. But let's see. Let's hope we get a competitive fight. Otherwise, I've got GAETHJE by late stoppage in round 3. All right, Zhang Weili versus Yan Xiaonan for the strawweight title fight. Both Chinese fighters, which is really interesting. Zhang Weili, she's on another level though. She's very strong, and her opponents have all been champions or they've been title fights. She's finished Joanna Jędrzejczyk. She submitted Carla Esparza, and you can see on Yan Xiaonan that 4 fights ago, I should say, Carla Esparza TKO'd her, and that kind of gives you a bit of point of reference there. Even though Yan Xiaonan's really, really improved, I just think that Weili's on another level. Physically, athletically, and skill-wise. This is going to be a very hard fight for Yan Xiaonan to win. I think Zhang might still play it safe though, because they're both going to have a lot of pride on the line, and it could end up being closer than what it should be. But I've got Weili by decision here. I think she'll retain the title. But it's an intriguing fight for sure. Also, Weili's got so much experience now. Yeah, I just think that she outweighs Yan Xiaonan in all areas of the game. But yeah, I'm open for a competitive fight. All right. The main event is Alex Pereira versus Jamahal Hill. So my take on this fight is, how is Jamahal Hill after coming off that surgery for the Achilles tendon? The Achilles tendon is probably the worst injury you can get in sports because it supports your whole body. That's why they have that analogy or saying about the Achilles heel of someone, like the biggest weakness, because once you fuck up that, usually ends your career. I'm being very serious. I know he's had good treatment and I really hope he's fully recovered. So if we have the fully recovered Jamahal Hill, I'm picking him all day. If he hasn't quite recovered, it's going to be a very tough fight for him, and I'm favouring Pereira. I'm going to just give Jamahal Hill the benefit of the doubt in this one. I'm going to say he's fully healed. I'm going to say he's going to win. I'm going to say he's winning by first or second round stoppage. Jamahal Hill is really slick. He's very cool, very well composed, a little bit elusive, and I think he's going to really, really want this. Pereira's been around a very long time. He's had a lot of success. Probably not as hungry. Jamahal Hill, I think he really wants to prove that he is the best in the world, and he's really got this aura of a champion. And I love him too, so I am being a little bit biased. I love Pereira too, but he's not as cool as Jamahal Hill. I mean, they're both pretty damn cool. Yeah, if I had to pick, I'm picking Jamahal Hill. I would say he knocks him out in the second round. Alex Pereira, he's been on a tear for so long, he must be wearing out. He's been through so many fights and excitement with Izzy, and the fight against Jan Blachowicz, I don't think he won. Jiri Prochazka was maybe a premature stoppage. Pereira, though, he's a brute. Like, he is so strong. It only takes a couple of mistakes for him to knock you out, but I think Jamahal Hill's got enough IQ and enough finesse, if his Achilles heel is recovered, that he'll be able to avoid that, and he'll be able to snipe Pereira from the distance. So yeah, I've got Jamahal Hill to become the new light heavyweight champion once more. Yeah, so that's about it. Let me know what you think about the fights. I'll be doing a recap. Sorry about the sound problems I had in my last couple of videos. It turned out that the channel in my mixer was a bit f***ed up, so I just changed that. Hopefully we don't have that happening again. Yeah, but enjoy the fights and take care. See you around the traps.